Fit for Life Radio. We are here, episode number 60. It's kind of like a number that feels like should be a milestone, but it's really not.
I feel like we've already done 100, so
I think it's just because it has a zero behind it.
yeah, it feels good.
Episode 60, we are talking about training related. What is the best rep range? Or even more specifically, how you should treat reps, or the new rep range, the new way to count reps.
Yeah, because I think it's more of like a process and philosophy of doing it than just this one's the best.
Yeah, and let's talk about. So what we'll do is essentially how it's always been done.
Yeah,
and then working with people now in our setting of a group training gym, our own training ourselves, new research and science that's came out, and ultimately how the old school way of doing things, you really see the limitations that it has,
especially in an environment like ours.
Yeah, and then what we recommend. So it used to be real, you kind of had your specific 5x5, right? It used to be like do 5 sets of 5 reps, 3 sets of 10 reps, 2 sets of 15 reps. Super strict like that, right? Mm-hmm. And then what you would happen, you'd pick a weight and start going, and if it's to do 10 reps, someone goes and they then stop at 10.
Yeah.
Right? Now, if you do enough sets, you eventually are going to fatigue to where then and that was the old school way, right? Because they did so much volume.
5x5 with a heavy weight.
Yeah.
Like, your last 2 sets are probably going to be brutal.
Yeah, or if you get to like 6th, 7th set of 10, with that weight, you're finally going to fatigue and then actually kind of hit close to failure. But what they found now is ultimately there is no magic rep range, and that so it used to be like people thought that the strength. So if you did the 5 heavier sets, mm-hmm. that's for
like 1 to 6.
1 to 6 is for strength and power, and then 6 to 10, is kind of a hybrid of hypertrophy and strength. 8 to 12 is the hypertrophy range, and 15 plus is endurance, right? So we were thinking you got, if you hit those ranges, it's different qualities like that. But now what they've really found is, definitely, obviously, if your goal is to lift something as heavy as possible for one time,
train in that range.
Training in that 1 to 5 range is going to help with max strength, right? Mm-hmm. But then really for as far as like building muscle and, looking for those kind of adaptations and really the benefits of why I need like average Joe would train, really from 6 reps to 30 reps, if you're pushing close to failure. So, and when we say failure, that means like technical failure. So where you on the concentric cannot do any more repetitions with the form that you started with. It's the same effect, right? So obviously if you had a lighter weight and you ended up knocking out 19 reps versus if you used a different weight that you could only handle 7 reps for, same effect, right?
Yep. Yeah, I mean, to your body, stress is stress for the most part. And the difference between some, rep ranges is just going to be maybe the intensity. That, like, if you're doing a 2-rep max, for most people, like when you're grinding out a second rep, it's just a little more taxing on the system. Whereas if you're operating in, say, that 8 to 15, 8 to 20 range, the nervous system doesn't take quite as big of a hit, or it doesn't affect, your recovery quite as much as the super maximal loads do, which is why it's kind of an optimal range for people that are looking for, just being strong and looking good. Whereas, if you're doing a strength sport, you do want to be in those lower ranges, and you just, they train a little more carefully and targeted.
And the other benefit, a negative to that super low range, is you're using a lot heavier weights, obviously,
yep.
And that's also stress on your joints and stuff.
Yeah, it's riskier, to do that heavier weight, and you have, a little more load on your shoulders, your knees, things like that.
Yeah. And let's be honest, people that train in that range majority of the time, powerlifters and stuff. I mean, I don't think I've ever known one serious powerlifter that
feels amazing
and has never had a major injury.
Yeah, and that's the risk they take, and they all know that.
Oh yeah. But then when you get average Joe who wants to look good at the beach and make his doctor happy,
They don't
the
want to feel
risk
like that.
reward starts to come out. You
Yeah.
know, hey, like, what benefits are we getting from that? And so, and the other thing too, don't mistake in this, like, if you just say train in a 10 rep range, you're still getting stronger. Like,
Oh,
if
for
you
sure.
can bench dumbbell press 60-pound dumbbells for 10, and a year later you can do 80s for 10, like, that is there's real strength improvements there.
Yeah, just in a 10 rep setting.
Yeah,
That's it.
So, but yeah, so essentially, though, that was the old school way, is like these
specific ranges for specific goals.
But really, it's, hey, anywhere in the 6 to 30. Now that's where things get, okay, what's efficient, right? Because the problem, if you're using a weight where you're able to get 25, 30 reps, your set takes a lot longer, right? So if you have time to do, say, 3 sets, and this is the main benefit of all this when we get into it, is the time. So you can maximize all your sets by, hey, if I can push them 1 to 2 reps shy of technical failure, I'm maxing it out. So you don't have to do a million sets. But also at the same time, if you're using super lightweight, getting like 25 reps, that just takes a lot longer, right? Whereas then, well, if you use a bit heavier weight where you're failing around 8 to 12, it's just more efficient.
Yeah.
So for most people, and we've seen this at our gym, bad stuff happens when you're picking up a weight that you can only muster for 3 times.
Yes.
Because right from the get-go, it's a grinder.
Mm-hmm.
And then then there's some exercises like say a dumbbell curl or a tricep extension, where even if you're using a weight that you can do it for 6, 7, 8 times, those are single joint exercises, so it puts a lot of strain on your joints.
Yep.
So a little bit higher rep range is more favorable. So really, of all exercises in general for most people, and what's efficient and productive, 8, 6, we'll say 6 to 15 reps.
I like 6 to 15.
Is
really,
a good, efficient range.
And another thing too, if we want to touch on, if you're doing sets of like 25 or 30, the ability to progress to a heavier weight takes so much longer.
Because it's such a bigger percentage of your max.
Yeah.
Right? So
that's another thing to think about. And part of all of this is the mental game. You want to enjoy it. If you just aren't going up in weight ever because you're doing 30 reps, like, that sucks. So, being able to do, we'll say 6 to 15. When you get to 15 reps, you go up in weight, start back over at 6.
Yeah.
Work your way back up. It's a little more rewarding too, which is all just, psychological. Like I said, stress is stress, but it matters because you do want to enjoy what you're doing and feel like you're accomplishing something, and it gives you the ability to do that.
And a lot of times when using the really high rep range, you're going to get the burn a little more.
Mm-hmm.
And so then a lot of times it's easy to quit the set.
Because it's uncomfortable.
And cardiovascularly, you start to get fatigued.
Yep.
And you actually might not be able to push to true muscular failure because you just give up for those other reasons.
Because it's uncomfortable as crap.
So again, that makes that 8 to 6 to 15 range make even more sense. But so then the way you train, this is what we really want to kind of talk about, is so many people now, they're so used to, well, give me a rep so I know what to do. But then they're not. That's all external, right? If you say do 10 reps of something, so many people will then lift and then just stop at 10, and they could have done 7 more reps. Guess what? If you're that far away from failure,
you're not going to get a training effect.
There's no. The only thing you're essentially accomplishing is it's basically a little bit of cardio.
Yeah, some moving your joints.
It's basically like going for a walk.
Yeah.
So you don't want to leave that on the table. And here's the thing. Okay, say you do that and you did stop. It's essentially a warm-up set, which, okay, you can do more sets, but then it starts to get into like time efficiency, right? Like,
especially with our setting, we have. I mean, right now 30 minutes, but normally we have an hour. To get everything done.
If you're not going to want to be at the gym all day, you want to be efficient, right? So you want to like break that of thinking, stopping way short. So really pick a weight, and if you can get more, like, go ahead and get what you can out of it. And to keep it simple, like we said, kind of have 15 as your marker, right? So if you end up working that set like you want to, and you get 19 reps or 21 reps, it's time to go up, right? So if you can do a weight with perfect technique and you hit 15 repetitions
or more,
then that should be your signal. Let me go up in weight. And then the next, you may go up in weight, and then you only get 11, right? Cool. Then you're sticking with that weight till you can eventually do 15 or more of it. So
Yeah.
you're trying to progressive overload by doing more repetitions. And that's a good flow to do.
I think some people with that get a little discouraged, like not remembering that it is a process of progression. They're like, oh, I did 15 with this and I'm only going to do 6. Yeah, that's kind of the point. Like you're going up in weight, and so your reps are, of course, going to drop. And then you keep doing that until you can do more and more and more. And that's literally what getting stronger is being able to either do the same weight more times or, more weight.
Yep. It's called double progression, and it's good too because it just gives your joints and ligaments time to progress as well with your muscles. So you're not always going up in weight. That doesn't end well, and it's not possible.
Yeah, I know a lot of programs like go up 2.5 pounds every single week.
So
that's not a very good thing to ingrain in people that you have to do that.
So in theory, when you look at a workout, what you normally see is it would be like 3x10, right? Which typically means 3 sets of 10 reps. Really, the best thing for most people is it should say 3x 1 RIR, and RIR could stand for reps in reserve, right? So you're pushing to where you leave 1 rep in reserve. Like, so if you had to, you could only do 1 more rep of failure. Another way it could be listed is, what's another way we've talked about?
RPE.
RPE, right? So a lot of people do a scale of 1 to 10 rate of perceived exertion. So a 10 would be basically all out.
Yeah, that's
a 9 would essentially mean leaving 1 rep in the tank. So it's almost an inverse of the other way. So they're both the same.
But they're just methods to tell you like
how close to push to failure. Yep. And really, for most exercises, you're going to be pushing 1 to 2 RIR, reps in reserve.
For pretty much everything.
Now, that's where if you were doing the lower range at 5 or less, training for pure strength,
that gets super taxing.
With a huge compound exercise like a deadlift or a squat, that's where you would leave more, like maybe 3, 4, 5 reps in reserve, because you want to stay, because there's more risk to going closer to failure with where you could drop, where you have weight on your back or something.
Yep.
But for most exercises, 1 or 2 to be efficient, training for, gaining and maintaining lean muscle tissue.
Yeah. So, good example, if we were doing like a dumbbell bench press and you do the arbitrary 10 reps, that a lot of people get into their head. It's just an easy number that's been programmed since the beginning of time. But you have 7 reps in reserve.
If you know me, you know I'm always on the run, up early and home late, so having a 3-hour morning routine isn't really in the cards for me. What is in the cards is AG1. It's a fast way to get vitamins and minerals I need to perform. I first gave AG1 a try because I wanted a single solution that helps support my entire body by filling in nutrient gaps and simplifying my morning routine. Since drinking AG1 daily, I've always felt strong and energized and ready to attack the day. Not only does AG1 deliver my daily dose of vitamins, minerals, pre- and probiotics, and more, it's a powerful, healthy habit that's also powerfully simple. It's 1 scoop mixed in water once a day and every day. I know that AG1 is giving my body high-quality nutrition. Every batch of AG1 goes through a rigorous testing process, so you know that it's safe. And AG1 ingredients are sourced for absorption, potency, and nutrition density. AG1 is a supplement that I trust to provide the support my body needs daily, and that's why I'm excited to welcome them as a new partner. Here is your chance to start every day this season with a gift to yourself. Try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3K2 and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase exclusively at drinkag1.com/provengrit. That's drinkag1.com/provengrit. Check it out.
Then, and you stop, you've just wasted a set and you're not close enough to failure to get anything out of it. You should have gone to 16 or 17. And then the next time you train, you'll go up maybe 2.5, 5 pounds and start back over.
Because the problem with it can go one of 2 ways, right? When you're like, well, I got to do 10 reps. One, you'll either stop at 10 and you can do way more, or then you may feel obligated
to get 10 no matter
to
what.
make it to 10 with a weight you chose, and you end up forcing 3, 4 sloppy reps to get to 10.
And that's how you start getting, nagging injuries and whatnot.
Yeah. And really, just when you look at it that way, it's really an awful way to decide to do things.
Yeah.
Because it just doesn't take into account. It's just so external, right? Whereas when you're being internal, you're thinking about your form, how it feels. It's so nuanced. It could be like things that could dictate that could be what you ate that day, what you ate the day before, how was your sleep, how's your stress. All those things are going to affect your training performance, right? So if you're like, I got to just stick with this exact number of reps, you're not taking all those things into account. You're just going to force yourself to get there. Whereas the other way, hey, you know what? Some days your reps, and maybe last time you did 12 reps with 50 pounds, and this time you're going to your 1 rep in reserve and you only get 13. That's okay. That's what you had that day.
Yep.
Right? And maybe, who knows, maybe you stayed up late and you had a child screaming and you only got 3 hours of sleep. Guess what? You shouldn't. That's what your body's physiologically capable of that day. You don't want to force more than that.
Nah.
You'll get another chance.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a long game. Always think about it as the long game. Progress over time. Same thing we always talk about with weight loss. It should be, an average over time. You're going to have days where you're higher, you're lower, but as long as your average is going in one direction, as far as, your weights in the gym, like they want to trend upward or your progress, that's fine. And accept the bad days and the really good days for what they are. And yeah, just do what you can on that individual day, because you're not going to be able to change that. You're not going to be able to just BS your way through, getting more reps.
And for us in the group environment that we coach and train in for our clients, it's really the way we're going to be going, especially, and a lot of people have been using it more and more now because of all the at-home training, right?
Yep.
And people have limited weights to choose from, so they're trying to make it effective, and it's a good way to do it. But it's ultimately the way to go all the time. So we would recommend training more, scrap this like specific rep destination per se, and just think of reps in reserve. Or I'm going to go to 1 to 2 reps shy of technical failure, and then kind of give yourself that 6 to 15 range, right? So if you're using a weight, and once you can get more than 15 with it, you could go higher and keep pushing to failure. It's going to be fine, but like we said, it's less efficient. Same thing, if you pick a weight and you can't even get 6, then you're going to be there's more risk to that and not enough reward. So it's probably a little too heavy. You want to go lighter and again, kind of fall somewhere in that 6 to 15 range, like majority of the time. That doesn't mean never train outside of that, but 80% of the time you want to be in there. Then maybe you're doing some heavy lifts, compound, type stuff. For the lower range, and maybe sometimes you're doing just some burners or lighter stuff, in the higher range. But
Exactly.
Majority of the time, 8 to 15 reps is where you want to end up. But again, you don't just stop. You don't just
don't just stop at 15.
Stop at 15. You let the weight and your form and the set pay attention to what you're doing and what you're feeling, and let that dictate where you end up. Then from there, you adjust.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that too, you have to pay attention during your sets. You've got to be willing to put in the effort to get closer to failure. So I know there are some exercises that suck worse than others. I know single leg stuff is pretty notorious for people wanting to sandbag it. It may not even be consciously, but people using lighter weights or just, I know you can do 15 reps and you stopped at 8. Just because it was kind of uncomfortable, like rear foot elevated split squats.
You have to train hard.
Super uncomfortable, and you have to be able to push and focus and not just try to go through the movements.
And a good way to tell is, in general, and this is where guys and girls can be a little different. Girls just recover a lot faster in between sets, and have more muscle endurance. But in general, like if you're pushing close to failure, your sets will be descending, right? So if you're sticking with the same weight. So again, you take some 50s for dumbbell press, and on your first set you get 14. Then your second set, you're probably only going to get 11, right? Then your third set, you might get 9. So that's because you're fatiguing right as you go. So if you pick a weight and you get 14, and then the next set you get 17, well, you probably were holding back on the first set. So in general, your performance will be going down as your sets go on.
Yeah, and that's normal. Like that's the way it should be. So
Yeah.
make sure you are really, pushing the sets. And again, it's having the control to not push beyond what you're capable of doing, but being able to take yourself to a point where, my form is gonna break down on this next
Mhm.
rep or 2 reps from now, and I know it's time to stop. And your
Yeah.
reps will get hard then, and it takes a little bit more to get them out. But that's how you know you're truly pushing. If you stop. Another thing, if you stop and you feel great afterwards and you feel completely, like you don't even need to recover at all.
Yeah, like you can go in 20 seconds again.
Yeah, like if you're truly pushing a set, I would say minimum you would need like a minute to recover. There's some stuff I do where 2.5 minutes honestly doesn't feel like enough time when you're really pushing it super hard.
Yep. And then just, so it doesn't feel overwhelming, realize most of this discovery where we talk about like find a weight that makes you be in this 8 to 15 range, you really only have to go through that the first time you're doing an exercise, right? Yep. So, and as you train more and you're more consistent, you'll know, right? So the first time, you may grab some 30s, right, for dumbbell press, and you do 27. You're like, well, I don't want to do. So then you'll know, okay, eventually in that first workout's more discovery time, right? Then eventually you'll find a weight where, I got 14. And then really you'll know going into your next workout where you're doing that exercise that say you did 50 pounds for 14, right? You'll know that's going to be your starting weight for your work sets. So you would come in, do a couple lighter warm-up sets. So if you say you're going to do 50, grab the 25s, do 10, like we talk about. Those are just light weights, just to feel the weight, warm up, get blood flow. Then you could grab your 50s and know, okay, this is a money set, right? So I'm going to pick these up, go 1 rep in reserve, push it, and see what you get. Log it. If you got more than 15, you're going up 5 pounds. Repeat the process. If you didn't, you stick with that weight and just try to get more reps until you can do 15.
It really is simple. It parallels like when we, the way we do nutrition.
Yeah.
Like we did the podcast episode on like the arbitrary like starting point for calories and stuff.
Yeah.
Once you do that one time, it's just like, we just talked about, you make changes over time based on where you're at. Yep. So that parallels it. So if you've ever gone through that, just think of it as the same thing. Now I'm just adjusting based on what my experience is or what my workouts are like.
Yeah. But you know what I've realized is it all involves doing the work, right?
Yeah.
And internally, critically thinking. That's what everyone's trying to avoid, right? Everyone just wants a calorie number and wants it to work. Yep. Well, how many calories should I eat to lose weight? How many reps should I do to get this result? Yep. And it's like, well,
it depends.
It depends. Like, here's a starting
point. Best answer ever.
But then listen to your body. Like, okay, now go eat the food. And are you losing weight? Are you stepping on step on the scale? That will tell you what's working.
Yeah. Or am I getting stronger?
Yeah.
Are my weights going up?
Am I getting stronger? Or are my weights going up? Am I fatigued?
Do my shoulders feel like they're going to explode every day? So
you have to do the work. You can't avoid it. And, all this stuff it's tracking, but it's simple. It takes seconds. Yep. Stepping on the scale takes seconds, right? Writing down a weight and repetition amount you did takes seconds.
Yeah.
So you don't make it harder than it is.
Yeah. Keeping a little log is important, even if it's just for a couple exercises. Your what we'll call your money exercises, your important ones. You could pick like 4, and you track them through your week, and that's really what you gauge your progress on. The other ones, you just do them till failure, but they're not maybe as important, and that's fine. That would be fine. So then you just got to write down maybe
have some key lifts.
Yeah, 2 exercises a day, and make sure they're going up.
Yeah, that's what I do. I have like 4 or 5 key lifts that over the course of months and years. Hey, what's happening with these? And I'll actually keep almost the same exercises year round. But then some people, some varieties fine, and that's what we do at the gym, and that's what studies they're starting to see, and as we see in the real world. So if you compare the two as far as doing the same exercises all the time, it does come out actually ahead of more variety, because simply you're able to get better at those exercises. Yeah, you're able to compare them better and progress more simply. But where it actually then falls apart and loses is with compliance, right? So when they have these studies and they're like, okay, this group is doing just the exact same workout all the time, and they're like, this group is doing a workout that's changing. So the workout that's the exact same workout all the time, those people actually get better results, the ones that stick with it, but more people fall off and lose interest. Whereas then the other group with the variance, they actually don't get as good of results per se, but more of them stick with it. And then obviously, well, if you're sticking with it,
that's a good thing.
You're gonna win out over the long run over someone who then quit. So, like what we like to do at the gym, and so then the answer, which is almost the answer for everything, is it's
right in the middle.
It's right in the middle, right? So you should probably have some key stuff that you keep the same, and then have some things that you change and just mix up, and so that way you're having stuff you can track, and then you're also having some variation for keeping you interested.
Yeah,
and things
like
entertainment's
sake, really, to keep it simple. Yeah. And we keep the same basic movements, and a lot of times it's just repackaging, the way the workout's structured, even with the same exercises, and that's enough. But yeah, it's just do just enough, the same that you're going to progress on those lifts, and then just enough variety that people stay interested, so that they actually do get stronger and they show up. So yeah, compliance and results is really the end goal.
Compliance is the science. Now we're getting off into another topic. We'll just have to do a different. I was just say it's the same thing with diet too, right? Like, we all know the best diets, but ultimately the one that you can maintain and be compliant to is going to be the best for any individual.
Yeah,
but
and again, that's not the answer.
So
most people are looking for, but
anyways, before we dive in that, but so reps again. Start scratching the. How many reps should I do? 10?
The arbitrary 10.
We can be better than that. So start thinking, 8 to 15 repetitions is a productive range, but ultimately I'm choosing weights that I end up landing in that range, but I'm not limiting or forcing myself in any amount. You're going into a set like, okay, I'm channeling my focus into my form, into how I feel, into what I'm doing, and where I end up is essentially, it doesn't matter. You want to apply the intensity and focus and hit that set hard, and then you'll make adjustments based on what happened.
Yep.
But don't sell yourself short and just stop because you're at 10.
And it feels good, like it sounds like a good number to stop at.
Or force yourself to get to a certain number and your form goes to crap.
Yeah.
So
just be there in the moment and just do what you can. That's it. That's really all you're doing.
Yep.
So, yeah.
All right.
Keep the effort high.
Hope that helps. Think about it.
I think it will.
Stew on it.
If you have any questions about it, let us know. We love to answer questions on this stuff.
You can hit us up on social media.
Social.
At the gym, Coastal Strength and Fitness. That'd be it.
That's it.
All right, guys.
Later. As always, thanks for listening, guys. If you want to learn more, check us out at coastalfitnessva.com or garydeagle.com. We'll see you next time.